What's up, Infected? Welcome to the Quarantine. Today we're going to be taking a look at a game by the name of Terrifying Girl Disorder. Now, what you see here is a prototype copy of the game, and my rulebook actually fell behind the table and got crushed by the bench that we have at the table. So that's why it looks a little rickety, but other than this, the rest of the game is perfectly fine. So, what is Terrifying Girl Disorder? Well, Terrifying Girl Disorder is an anime-style game where women around the world are developing these strange abilities. And at first it was encouraged and people loved it and embraced it. But then the girls always couldn't control their powers, so problems wound up arising. Now, after these girls start losing their powers, people started not trusting them, so propaganda was put out called the Terrifying Girl Disorder, and they would usually try to kill or experiment on these terrifying girls. Now, the game takes place with a group of girls that were basically experimented on, and they all lost their memory. So throughout the course of the game, you're trying to remember which girl you are, and you're going to score points if you're able to accomplish certain goals depending on what girl you wind up being throughout the course of the game. Now, I know most of that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so let's just go right over the overview. Alright, this is basically Terrifying Girl Disorder set up and ready to be played for a 3-player game. Now, what you're going to do throughout the course of the game is very simple. Each player is going to have these player sheets here. Now, these player sheets have how each one of the characters that you can wind up being, how they score. Now, at the end of the game, whoever has the most of any one girl, that is who their identity is. So, what you're going to do is you're going to deal out 3 cards for each player into a ring, as you see here. Then, starting with the start player, you're going to take your shard that each player has, such as this, and you're going to place it on one of the girls. So, for example, I may put it here. Now, this next player can put it anywhere on the board that's not adjacent to a shard that's already out. So this player may put this one right here. Then this player may place this one, say, I don't know, right here. Now, the players are going to go to the recollection phase. So, starting with the start player, you're going to look through your hand of cards, and you're going to play one of the girls in your hand that you do not already have face up in front of you. You can play any number of the cards, but as long as they have the same numbers. For example, I can play 2 of these. So I can play 2 Enju Mishohagi, for example, and then you'll just do what it says. So I can place this in front of me, and I get to take a card from my recollection area and add it to any player's hand. So I would be able to take one of these, for example, and add it maybe to your hand. So now you're going to have, one of her in your hand. Or maybe I add that card back to my hand, or however you want. You add it to any player's hand. So then the next player would do the same thing. So even though this player has 2 of this, this player may want to play this card instead because it has a better ability. However, it does need to be noted though, if, let's just say hypothetically, this player, whoever's playing purple, plays this card face up, next round, she's got one in their hand. I cannot play this card because there's already one face up, so that card will remain in my hand. Once each player has played a girl or a series of one girl from their hand, you're now going to move to the next phase, where whoever the start player is now going to get to choose either clockwise or counterclockwise to collect cards. Now, for example, here, if I were to go counterclockwise, red being red player, I would gain all the cards that I have under me and all of the cards until you hit the next player's shard. So these would all go to my hand. Then green would take these, and then purple would take all of these and they would go to their hand. It needs to be noted that your hand can never be more than 8 cards, and if it is, as it is here, I would have to remove this card and remove it from the game. You can never have more than 8 cards in your hand. And that's all there is to playing Terrifying Girl Disorder. So throughout the course of the game, you're going to have different girls out in front of you, such as you see here, and whoever at the end of the game, once the 5th round has been played, whoever has, for example here, I would be Tetsuji. However, if another player maybe had 5 Tsuji, they would be her, but then I would have to fall back on my second highest, so I would wind up being this one, and so on and so forth. Which brings us to the final part of the game. Depending on what girl you wind up being, as you see on the sheet here, dictates how you're going to score points. So for example, if you are Tsuji, if you only had one of her out on the field, and that's who you wound up being, you would score 18 points because you have only one. However, if you have 5 or more of her, you only get 1 point for that. However, this one here, she scores points based on you want either 2 or 4 of her because you get 10 points. But the characters also have special endgame scoring. So victory point bonus for Tsuji, for example, is that you get +1 victory points for each card in your recollection area that is rank 3 or higher. So in this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 extra points. At the end of the game, whoever has the most points is declared the winner. Alright, Terrifying Girl Disorder. Well, first and foremost, I do want to talk about the artwork in the game. Now, as you see here, as you saw earlier, the artwork's really pretty. It's drawn very, I don't even know the word for it. It's very colorful, and it's very vibrant and pretty, and I really very much loved the artwork. Now, for anybody who's worried, the artwork, all of the girls are fully clothed. None of them are provocative or lewd. I think the worst offender is Ichigo that you see here, and as you see, she's not that bad at all. She's wearing like a one-piece skin-tight jumpsuit. That's pretty much it. So overall, the artwork is really, really pretty. But how's the game? Well, the game was very polarizing. Everybody who played this, they either really enjoyed it or they didn't like it at all. And I'll tell you why. So we'll touch on the bad first. Now, the biggest complaints that I had with the game was that they felt the game was a drag. It kind of drug on a bit. It's kind of slow. And even though you're only playing 5 rounds, it's a little slow, which it can be. The game, there's a lot of things going on. For such a small little game, you're having to think about a lot of things. Do I play this card right now? Do I drop all 3 of them because maybe I need the ability, or do I drop one and maybe try to bounce it back into my hand later and then drop a whole bunch of them so I can be this character because I have blah 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 in my hand and that's going to give me a bunch of bonus points? Or do I drop it now just for the ability and maybe try to screw you out of it? So there's a lot of information that you're having to try to process for such a small, light little game. And I think that's why some people felt that the game was kind of on the slow side. But the kind of leading into the next problem that people did have was that with it being a little slow and a little bit of a slog, the payoff of the game at the end, a lot of the players did not feel it was worth the time investment. It can be a little anticlimactic. Now, overall, I disagree with both of those points completely. But the way I do my reviews is I play the game with several different groups consisting of several different players, and I base my reviews on the consensus, the general consensus of the games. So that way it's not just my opinion. You're getting the overall opinion of the game. So personally, I love the game. I thought the game was a lot of fun. But a lot of the people that we played with did not like it for those reasons. However, the things that we loved about the game is the way the strategy works. Now, this isn't like your normal strategy game. You're having to think very outside the box because different girls here require different requirements. I think that's the right way to say that. Probably not. But they all have different requirements on how to become these girls. And you can really easily be pushed out of a lot of them, especially the ones that give you bonus points for maybe having certain cards in your hand or anything like that. So there's very outside of the box style strategy and thinking involved here. All the way down to even just placing your shard. Because if you're not the starting player, how are you going to place your shard? Because you're not going to get to decide, are you picking up to your left or to your right? So now you have to keep that in mind, but you also don't want your opponent getting a whole bunch of cards. So now you really have to start thinking, okay, well, where do I need to place my cards? So just a simple little decision like that is very meaningful, because depending on the strategy you're trying to build, maybe you need a bunch of those cards that are out there. So it winds up being a kind of a tense decision. And then maybe a strategy that you're gunning for, maybe another player drops a whole bunch of one girl that you're gunning for, and you're like, well, crap, now what? So now you got to change that plan on the fly. So not only are you having to think outside of the box, you're also having to change things and being very flexible with your strategy, because sometimes a lot of the cards are going to be face down, because certain cards allow you to drop some of these characters, and this isn't one of them, but maybe I play a card and it says next round I can play my cards face down. So now I'm going to take 2 of her and I'm going to put her face down. So now you have no idea who that is, what card that is. So maybe I flip it over, maybe it adds to one of my existing girls. Maybe I screw you out of who you're trying to get, so now your whole strategy is bunk. And that's what I love so much about this game, is because for such a light, simple little game, it's got a surprising amount of depth. Now, I totally understand and I totally see where everybody is coming from. And the things that I just talked about there, the other half of the group or the people that I played it with that did enjoy the game, that's pretty much the same feelings that they got from it. It is a lot of fun. But I definitely see where the problems that everybody else played it, where those are derived from. Overall, I personally definitely recommend this game. However, the general consensus was that you may like this game if you're into that style. You're into the lots of hidden information and very, thinky, but with hidden information and trying to, think about what everybody's trying to do and have contingency plans and all of that. And that is my review for Terrifying Girl Disorder. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time in the Quarantine.